I want to grab your blank and put it in my blank.
Yeah, and smack your blank with my blank.
Hi, I'm Eden.
And I'm Michael.
And we are
Majorly Married.
Okay, so you know how you can listen to a song and you'll find out it's like, you go back and you like read the lyrics and it's like super, super raunchy, nasty lyrics. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine saying any of that out loud.
Yes.
That's dirty talk.
That is dirty talk.
So today...
Unless they're like talking about murder or something.
I also can't imagine saying that out loud, but that's not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about dirty talk.
Talking dirty to your partner. Is it awkward or is it sexy? That is going to be our discussion.
Sneak preview? It's both.
Definitely both. But why is it both and does it have to be? So let's kind of break down initially, like when we're saying dirty talk or talking dirty, what are we kind of talking about right now? Because I do think there's a range here.
Well, okay. When you hear dirty talk, what is like the first thing that comes to your mind? So you said the things you can't say out loud.
Yeah, so you want me to say them out loud right now?
I just mean it's something vulgar, right? It's something more crass, vulgar. That's what you hear. That's what you see in media. That's what dirty talk is portrayed as.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think of it as like whatever words like get you in the mood. Whatever words either turn you on or turn your partner on or set the stage for both of you. We're like, I see where this is going.
Yes, I think that's the actual definition, if you will.
Yeah.
I just think that when people hear dirty talk, they're like, okay, bad words. It is something that makes the other person go, excuse me, whoa, maybe blush a little bit.
Does it automatically make them blush? Or, because also I think the whole point of that idea of like talking dirty is that the other person might be like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think it's turn them on. I think it's not make them awkward. Like, hopefully that's not the goal. Your goal should not be make somebody feel awkward.
Right.
Your goal is typically turn somebody on. Somebody most likely being your partner.
I appreciate it. I thought it was funny. I was watching one of those reels where it was talking about like this generation's music and how they're like, ooh, our music's so raunchy and sexy and like taboo. And then a millennial parent's like, hold my beer, and shows like their music from their generation. So I think like we've all been exposed to dirty talk in a fairly palatable way. Typically it's in our music, sometimes it's in our movies and media, but when it comes to you being the person who says it and does it, that's when it's like, oh, like, I don't know how I feel about that. Because like for me, whenever I think about and have seen dirty talk portrayed, it's very confident. Like rarely is somebody awkward or shy when they say it. They say it with this like confidence and finesse and bravado that you're like, damn, okay. Like,
what do you mean? It's not like, excuse me, you got a nice butt.
Yeah. I like to take your clothes off.
I like your butt.
Yeah, I mean that's not what you hear unless it's a comedy, right? And so then you'll watch a comedy movie and they're making fun of the person who doesn't. Ryan Gosling is trying to teach you how, you know, like.
I could use some of those lessons, you know.
I could use some of his lessons.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing that I think about is just like this confidence level that makes it feel so intimidating. And I can put together a sentence in my head. I can't, like I said, I can't imagine saying it out loud.
Especially not here on the podcast.
No, I think that was when we were talking about doing this. I was like, wait, so are we gonna actually like say these sentences and say these things? And we'll probably like hint at it and try to like allude, but
I think, you know, everybody knows what we're talking about. it is the raunchy version. That is what you typically think of.
So like, I want to grab your blank and put it in my blank.
Yeah, and smack your blank with my blank. And lick your blank.
So blank.
So blank. Yeah.
We can't like beep beep.
I mean, we could do that.
And the other piece that I tend to think about is like there's this confidence, and then it goes with this like sexy voice, right?
Almost like it has to be different than your normal voice.
You're not just like asking about what they want from the grocery store and then being like, oh, and by the way, blankety blank 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 blank, and the other person's like, oh, okay.
Oh, hey Eden, would you like me to blank your blank?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like that's especially jarring. I think the whole point of why it like ends up being hot is because it's presented differently. It's not like a doctor is telling you. Like a doctor can say half of these words, right?
Yep.
And it's not sexual. You can talk with, such a weird segue, but like you can be explaining things to your kids about how sex
Very
works.
weird.
And essentially they are dirty words, right? You're like explaining a dirty process, but it's not dirty talk.
It's all about context clues, and the way it's delivered sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, but why are we talking about dirty talk? Why does it matter? Does it matter?
I think it can matter. I think it's a form of initiation, and that's why it can be valuable to a relationship. It's so many people try to initiate in vague, unclear ways. Like, what do you mean? I touched your shoulder. Of course I was in the mood. Like, I told you. Whereas if you say, let's go blank, blank, so hard, blank, like, you're like, you're not mistaking that, right?
Well, I think that's one way that dirty talk can be used. I don't think that's the only way. I think initiating is one aspect, but I think dirty talk matters because it gets people in the mood, so that's more of the initiation. But I think it can keep people in the mood. It can while you're in the middle of it, of going at it, it can just add. It can be additive to sex, so it can enhance the experience.
Yeah. I think the other piece of dirty talk too is it can play into somebody's fantasy potentially. So if they want to be talked to a certain way, and that is, like you're saying, it's how it like keeps them in the mood or enhances an experience for them. Having sex by itself might not be their full desire and what they really want. They might have a different idea of how they want that to look and a different persona either they want to take on or a different environment that they want to have sex in. And language is a part of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, language is literally one of the five senses, and it's a sense that you can appeal to for your partner.
Yeah. I also like that it comes in like you can say I want you in a bunch of different ways. There's just saying I want you, but you can come up with so many different ways of saying that in different tones. I'm thinking of the difference between, I love you so much, and if I had the chance, I would want to slowly take your clothes off, and I would want to kiss all over your body, and like that's technically like kind of like it's dirty talk, right?
Yeah.
And that is a different way of saying I want you than the more vulgar ways that we're also describing. Both are talking dirty, both are saying I want you. It's just different styles. And within a relationship, I think it's okay to have that range where sometimes you just want to beep. And other times you want it to be slow and sensual and romantic and gentle. And dirty talk doesn't have to be omitted just for it to be sweet.
Yep. I think that comes, in my mind, I think the crux of this episode, which is how can we reimagine dirty talk? Because I will say I am one of those people that for a majority of my life, dirty talk meant the vulgar porn language, like that is what dirty talk was. That's how you get your partner in the mood. That is that is how you enhance
That's
sex.
like how a man talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that is the only way that dirty talk can manifest. Especially when you think about all those contexts that you mentioned, which, like initiation, another word that I would just boil a lot of it down to is validation, too.
Yeah.
And enhancement during sex. I think it is not just vulgar. It can be sensual. It can be sweet. It can be almost anything. But it appeals to your partner's desires. It appeals to your specific partner. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think it's words that seduce your partner where they're at based on what they've described. In my own life, I was thinking about how sometimes, yes, I'd want to hear the more vulgar sentence because it's very overt and I have a little bit of that like adrenaline junkie side. And so if you can like spike my desire in that way, that can be fun. But also you showering me with compliments and not necessarily sexual compliments, just like you taking 5 minutes and just giving me words of affirmation stacked on top of each other. That can get me in the mood just as much.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to always approach, I'm going to use my words in sex to just be crass, I would be missing a whole dimension of our sex life that I love.
Yeah.
So I think that's, when I'm redefining it, I'm wanting to broaden the definition, not necessarily take it down a totally different road. Yeah, keep the hot and heavy dirty stuff, but also dirty, meaning let's make it sexy, can also...
And that's where I was kind of implying that it can be anything. I think a joke that we had said is, okay, I mean, can it be anything? What was it, like hot dogs and pastries or something? Is that dirty talk? You know what? To some people, yes, maybe that is. And that's the point, is maybe in our relationship, no, that sentence would probably not turn either of us on and get us in the mood or enhance sex or validate the other person. But you know what might? An example would be, I find you so attractive. It's such a benign sentence. I tell you that every day. But in the right time, at the right moment, with the right tone, with in the right context, that might be the sexiest thing I could say.
Right.
You saying like, I appreciate what you do for my family. That's just a nice sentence. What do you mean? But that can turn me on to actually the point of like, thank you. That felt really validating. I want to connect with you.
Yeah. Your words are a key component of the sexual experience. To omit your words and language and say, that's not important, is missing a whole dynamic that I think enriches a good sex life.
Yeah.
And even though it might feel awkward to start broaching some of those topics and saying some of those words, which I want to get into a little bit, is just like the awkwardness and the shame that tends to go before that conversation, you know, and the reason why so many people avoid it and leave it to media, because it feels embarrassing or uncomfortable, and you're afraid, like being uncomfortable is the least sexy feeling on the planet, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do think the other thing in my mind about reimagining it is, I think tone and delivery, while that's a way to apply it, and we'll get into that, I do think that can turn almost any word into dirty talk. Yes, saying hot dogs and pastries is not hot, but if I walked up behind you, got right next to your ear, maybe, you know, held your butt and said, hot dogs and pastries. You'd be like, what? Why? Why am I turned on right now? Like, it wouldn't make sense, but it might actually turn you on.
Is it about the words? Or is it about the tone? Because like what you just
I
gave an
think it's
example
both.
of.
I think it's both because what I was gonna say is also it could just be an inside joke now.
Yeah.
That like
Yeah.
I think it's a combination. Because I think no matter what, if I did that out of nowhere, you would honestly like without us having this conversation, you'd be like, what? You would still be confused.
I would start laughing, and I feel like I imagine it in a setting where like sex isn't actually about to happen. Like you would probably say that when we're like out in public or whatever, like making a joke, trying to make me uncomfortable in a like playful teasing way.
Yeah.
But also, in a way, because of the tone, it alludes to like a sexuality, right? You're planting the thought of sex in my mind, even if I don't quite understand how pastries and hot dogs come in. Hot dogs are a little more pastry. Anyways.
Oh, like jelly filled. Anyways.
Oh, see that right there.
Not dirty talk.
Where somebody could be like, that's funny, that's hot. And I can
you
sit here and be
said,
like,
nope.
ew.
Absolutely not. Okay, so we redefined it
Yeah.
very loosely.
Well, I think because part of redefining it is how subjective it is. And so in order to really explore how it can be redefined for unique couples and unique experiences, we're going to have to talk about applying it.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about applying it.
So I want to start off by talking about shame. I've mentioned this before, and I think it's a
All right.
core part of my background is coming from a place of purity culture where, you know, I wasn't really like watching porn. I wasn't watching movies that had a lot of dirt. I wasn't listening to those songs. So all this thing that I just alluded to, I grew up without. And if I ever did watch porn, watch one of those movies, listen to that music, I was doing something bad, right? And there was shame attached to it. Not something to learn from, something to incorporate. I didn't even connect it to like sex in the future. It was just like, well, that's the bad version. And the good version of sex is wholesome and sweet and pure. And I couldn't quite quantify exactly what that meant or looked like, but it sure didn't look like that raunchy
Crass,
stuff.
vulgar language.
It didn't look like an R-rated movie.
Yep.
And so then to have sex and be like, oh no, that is an R-rated movie. Like, there's nothing PG about sex. Although I do think it is good and right and not something to be ashamed of. A lot of those components that made it R-rated are actually healthy and not to be avoided.
Yep.
So, why shame occurs, how to overcome it. Did you experience any shame? Like, you didn't come from the same purity culture background I did, where there was a lot of like religious stigma attached to it, morals, values, identity. You were just kind of raised like good guy.
Yeah, it was all, there wasn't shame attached to it.
But you had more awkwardness? Because you said earlier that you were a little more awkward.
Well, I think I am awkward around other people in general. And so the idea of trying to turn someone else on through words is a bit awkward. And then also using crass language, which I think you don't know how it's going to land. Because not all crass language lands with me. I don't want all crass language, so which one is going to work for you? I don't know. I'm like scared to try, you know, in a sense.
Yeah.
When you first meet somebody and you first have sex with them, you can try and throw out some dirty words and you might just make the whole situation really awkward.
Yeah.
And then you will feel awkward. You may feel shame. I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of the important parts when overcoming shame is communication. Therapy is beneficial, and that is part of communication, is communicating it with a therapist and having a therapist help you work through if there's trauma associated, if there's religious trauma and shame associated. Those are all really valuable things to explore outside the bedroom and outside of your relationship. But communication within your relationship and finding out when you imagine having sex, what does that look like? What sort of sensations do you enjoy? What does it feel like? What do you, I'm the sort of person who can use a lot of like analogies to help me communicate, and that might be easier for someone who's hesitant to use straight up communication. I've even said things like, I've related things to me, like colors make sense as an experience. I don't know that that makes sense, but to me, yellow gives a different feeling and idea to me than red. And so this sounds dumb, but I truly think for some people, being able to be like, I want more of like a bright yellow experience with sex. And you're like, okay, so that doesn't sound like, to me, if I'm listening to that, it sounds like you want something that's more positive. You want something that's a little more warm and welcoming and safe, more exciting. Versus someone's like, yeah, I want like dark red, black, purple. And you're like, that feels a little more intense.
Feels pretty heavy.
Right? So even though that's not necessarily, you don't live in this realm of like using analogies all the time and this like, I don't know, transcendent experience that's like not grounded in reality. Does that make sense to you if I was to say some of those things and we use that as the springboard for communicate? Not just that, maybe being like, I want light pink sex, babe, and then I walk away. That's terrible.
I think I would need more clarification, but yeah, I mean, it works a little bit. I think most people can interpret like light versus dark type of thing and the connotations that come with light versus the connotations that come with dark. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I meant it's meant to be more of a springboard for communication, where if I'm having a hard time figuring out where to start, saying like, I don't know, I just want it to feel like more like white.
Yeah, I think you should use the language that feels comfortable for you, and then it can be a springboard to the full conversation with your partner. I think you had mentioned fear. I think you had mentioned shame. I think the other important part is fear, because I think that's more of maybe the realm that I would live in, is having that conversation feels awkward. But I think it feels awkward because I'm like afraid to have it.
It's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable, and I think with vulnerability comes fear. So having that conversation of, hey, what dirty talk do you like in bed? Where, again, depending on the person you're talking to, you might say, ew, what? You want to dirty talk? And then I feel shame. I'm like, sorry, yeah, you're right. I'm stupid. I shouldn't have brought that up. Yeah. And now I may never bring up dirty talk. And I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation too, is it doesn't mean if I said, hey, I want to like dirty talk more. I'm not saying I want you to, say, I want to slap your ass, Michael. Like, that's not what I'm saying. It might be, I want dirty talk to look like this. Yeah. I want you to just validate me a little bit more, or I want to feel more confident. And you can use nice, easy language, light pink language. And that would be something that would validate and turn me on and get me more into sex or initiate better.
I think another way you can, in line with what you're saying, if you've got fear, if you've got shame coming into play in your language with sex, I think one of the easiest ways to start is also with responsive language rather than initiating with words. So to be the person who steps out on that, cliff and says, okay, I'm just gonna try to land one of these sentences, see how it goes. Hopefully they like it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I do think that is another version of applying it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's easier to just, in the middle of sex, say something like, that's so hot. I like that. Do you want me to keep going? Like sentences like that, you're starting to incorporate speaking during sex. Mm-hmm. I think that's just a huge piece of it. It's easy to stop talking and get in your own head and in your own experience, and part of connecting is language. So I find it a lot easier to start off by being responsive and reactive and communicating, not necessarily, in advance. If you're like, hey, what do you like? That's hard for me.
Oh, yeah.
But when we're in the middle of doing it and I say, I like that, Well, you still get the same knowledge and information, right?
100%. One thing I do think you probably should try and do outside of bed, maybe outside of sex, is have the conversation with your partner on boundaries of language. So, for example, some people may want the feeling of shame or humiliation during sex. That is something that turns them on.
That's their kink.
And if their partner's okay with that, that's great. But during sex, I'm maybe not going to try and humiliate you to see if you like it, because that might go off the rails very quickly.
Yeah.
So that may be a boundary conversation that you would want to have with your partner beforehand or outside of the bedroom of, hey, when it comes to dirty talk, what do you think is off limits? And I think giving examples of shaming, humiliation, even talking about specific body parts or certain words or certain phrases that the other person may not want to hear.
Yeah. I think examples for people who prefer examples would be using curse words specifically. Is that something that you're both comfortable with? You both want to hear? If you're not okay with someone dropping an F-bomb in the middle of sex, then, saying that, because the other person might think that's the hottest thing they could say. So language is one category. Like you're saying, vulgar speech is another, where it's taking anatomical words and stuff and being like, how far do you want me to say this sentence? Do you want me to say it like a science book? Do you want me to say it in a very crude way, or do you want me to just allude to it? I'm over here will joke about my humanaha instead of actually wanting to say what I am talking about explicitly. That is so hard for me, whether it is anatomy or traditional sexy language. I get uncomfortable just simply saying the words. I don't think that that's where I should live and where I should stay, but that's where I am.
Yeah.
So I think those are some examples of categories, or saying things like, I don't want you to, feedback type of conversations. You gave the example of
maybe don't score your partner.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
while it's happening.
Direction.
But what I did want to say with that, okay, so let me finish that first thought. I think in the midst of it being no, stop, no, that kind of bossy direction.
Do better.
Yeah, that's different from what I was going to get to next, which is aftercare alignment conversation. That should happen. You should still be able to say, no, stop, I don't like that. And of course, anytime someone says stop, you're stopping. I don't care if it sounds and feels rude.
I was thinking more, when you were mentioning that example, I was thinking more of giving a score. You're not doing good. Thanks.
No, not like that.
Not like that. No. Harder, better, faster.
Yeah.
Maybe those words can work in a different tone.
Yeah, it's not demeaning speech, I guess.
Unless somebody likes it.
Unless someone likes it. So I think those are kind of broad categories if you're trying to figure out how could I start having this conversation with my spouse?
I think the easiest thing to do, start with boundaries outside of sex. If you can think of, call it green lighting phrases or words or topics or anything beforehand, you like it, have that discussion too. If it is something outside of sex that turns you on, let them know. If it is, hey, 2 hours before we can even think about having sex, you say these words to me and it's gonna turn me on for later tonight, have that conversation.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I think that is where you can start. That is some examples, and let's jump in. What do you mean by aftercare? Can you expand?
Yeah. So I think after you try something, there is room for immediate feedback, sure, but also recognize the vulnerability of somebody having tried something, right? So aftercare is after sex is done, whether that is immediately after or maybe the next day, you can decide with your partner the timing, which is best for how vulnerable you might feel. I think sometimes it's easy right afterwards because everything's fresh and you remember. But also, for some couples, it might be better to do it the next day because everything's fresh and they feel still really vulnerable. You know your relationship, you can figure out that timing. But to say, hey, when I said this sentence, did you like that? Is a good question to ask. Because what we were talking about before with boundaries, someone might not know their boundary yet.
And then once you said it, I may go, yeah, actually, no, that didn't do it for me. I didn't like it.
Yeah, and it can be a hard no, or it can just be like, I mean, it was like neutral. I didn't really care.
And during sex, it might be difficult for the other person to say that, like, hey, actually, I'm sorry, I don't really like that phrase. Like, during sex, that might feel really awkward. So somebody may just hold on to it and be silent. So asking that question, I think it is super valuable.
And I have to take this tangent. Sex is not a performance. No. So having those real-time conversations is going to happen, and it should happen. It's not going to be this flawless scene where everybody's hot the whole time. They get it right, 10 out of 10.
Except for us, right?
No. No, we're not perfect at this. And nobody
What do you mean?
is.
You said I was. I'm just kidding.
Nobody is perfect at it.
Wait, was that just dirty talk, Eden?
Yeah. So yeah, I want to circle back to that idea of like sex is not a performance, because when you go to aftercare, it's not a review where you should take that criticism to heart and mean like, I'm bad in bed. They don't want me. It is giving the other person an opportunity to know how they can connect with you best in the future, and letting someone have the courage to try something because they know there's going to be a conversation later to say whether or not that worked, and you're not going to abandon them. You're not going to leave. Do everything in your power to not do that to your partner, to not react in so much shame and embarrassment that you wall off and you shut down and the other partner doesn't even know what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Right? That might happen if you get triggered. That's kind of back to the trauma and shame part where, sure, there have been times even with you where I'll shut down in the middle of sex and we'll have to like stop and
have a conversation.
Pivot because we've hit a
Something
wall.
happened, yeah, of course.
So I think aftercare can be truly like planned aftercare, or it might happen in the middle when you notice someone's not okay.
Just remember that aftercare, the whole point is to learn and grow and fall more in love with your partner.
Yeah.
Improve next time. Sounds a very like work related thing.
No, but I think
Continue to iterate and improve each time, so then finally after 47 attempts, you'll be even better.
But practice does make perfect. And just because you said something once and it didn't quite land right, if the other person was like, yeah, I don't know, it felt kind of weird. Being like, do you want to, like, is it okay if we keep doing that?
Yeah.
It makes it sound right now like all we do is like give performance reviews after sex.
No, I think sparingly. It's occasional. Like aftercare, if you're having to have aftercare after sex every single time, there might be something more going on. Maybe I don't know, a line on a normal sex that you can have
Confidently and safely, yeah.
Yeah.
And then aftercare, I know, is also very important and common when you get into dominant submission type of situations or different kinks that put people in a very vulnerable state that might be different from the relational dynamic normally. So if someone does have a humiliation kink and you're going to use derogatory comments the whole time, and that is wanted, that is desired, that is a turn on, it is still important then in the aftercare to reaffirm someone and to tell them they're worthy and you love them and you appreciate them, so that they're not ever connecting in their brain like, wait, do they actually feel that way? So I think equalizing the relationship after getting into that type of play is important too.
Yeah.
Anything else on the aftercare note?
No.
Okay. I think one of the other things that's interesting in the world of sex these days is technology.
How does that relate to dirty talk?
So much. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is texting.
Is texting dirty talk?
Absolutely, it can be, because it's still another form of communication, right?
So yes, it is using words.
I was going to say this when we were talking about the shame and awkwardness. If you can't imagine saying the words out loud, maybe start by writing them. And being able to text that to your partner, maybe like in the middle of their workday and being like, tonight I want to, is something that can be really hot for a relationship and can be fun. But here's where the issue with technology comes into play. The other person might have boundaries and be like, I'm at work. Like, don't text me that while I'm in the middle of this meeting.
I had text to voice on in the middle of the meeting. Yeah, I think that goes into the boundaries conversation. But tech it's a very interesting one, because I ultimately agree that you can use text, you can use tech to enhance. I had mentioned earlier that idea of saying something 2 hours before. Text it. Yeah.
Texting it, I would say, phone sex is a thing too, where you're just describing the whole thing.
If you're away, that's a form of connection.
Yeah. And for some people that feels more vulnerable, and for some people that feels a little bit safer. It's a thing to try. I think with all things technology, recognizing that there is a unique vulnerability there, that you are putting it out into the world a little bit more. So being mindful of who else has access to that phone or access to that cloud world. I think most of it's like, I wouldn't want my most vulnerable moments getting out there for the rest of the world to see.
For sure.
But finding out with your partner, like, where that boundary is. Like you said, if you had text to speech on and you were in the car with your mom, like, that'd be mortifying to me. I would never want that to be the case.
Fair.
But it's not like you can tell me every single time you're about to get in the car with someone.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, don't text me right now. Like, it'll embarrass you. So understanding those dynamics, or if you have kids that are, using your phone and watching Miss Rachel.
Can they get into texts?
Yeah. So I think those are some big ones. Another one is using music. I joked about it right at the beginning, but if you don't know how to say it, don't want to text it, you can either send a song and be like, I was listening to this song and I was thinking of you.
Might take some context to pick up on, though. I'll just be like, oh, thanks. And it's like, I want to make out with you is maybe like the lyrics in the song, and I don't listen to lyrics, so.
True. It might not work for everybody, but if you were to send that to me, it would make perfect sense because I do listen to lyrics.
Yes.
So I think music can be a part of it, whether that's, like I said, sending it back and forth, or just having music playing that helps evoke that, like, sexy environment.
I think another one in tech is there's essentially like erotic fiction or audio erotica, something like that, where you can turn it on. You can turn it on with your partner, where it is a sexy story that may get you both in the mood.
Yeah.
Though, question for you, is that dirty talk if nobody in the relationship is doing the talking? So music and maybe shared erotic fiction, is that dirty talk?
I think we talked about reimagining it, so yes. I don't think it is what people traditionally think of.
Okay.
I think it's a way to broach it in your relationship if you're not comfortable broaching it the traditional way.
Okay.
So I think that was kind of my heart in entering the conversation was, if somebody likes just straight up saying the raunchy, dirty thing, and they're confident about it, their partner's confident about it, they're having a great time with it, none of this conversation's all that beneficial for them. Like, you guys got it. Have fun.
I say this conversation is valuable because keep doing it. Enhance it with these other things.
That's fair. Or maybe they haven't participated in the aftercare part and they didn't know that there's more to be had, or maybe less to be had, and they're like, the partner's just been people pleasing the whole time and doesn't actually like it.
Oh, Lord, that would suck to find out.
It would suck to find out, but you'd rather
but
find out.
It's good to find out now rather than years of resentment built up. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the kind of that next point, I guess, of like toning it down or amping it up with your partner.
Yeah, I think to me, this is all about essentially what we talked about in aftercare, which is this idea of growing. Experiment, grow, learn. And you said tone it down, amp it up. Tone it down if the season calls for it, if the moment calls for it. Again, if you're needing to do aftercare after every sex, maybe it's time to tone it down a little bit for a little while. If you guys are feeling sex is stagnant, maybe it's time to amp it up. Experiment. Try something new. Try dirty talk. Try different dirty talk. Try more dirty talk.
Yeah.
Continue to learn, grow, love each other, learn each other, and know that you guys are not stagnant beings. You will change in new seasons. You become a mother, some of the same dirty talk may not feel the same. You're like, I'm a mom now. That's kind of awkward. I'm a dad now. Maybe don't say, I don't know. I don't know what it could be. But regardless, season changes may mean dirty talk changes.
Yeah. There's a way to allow the seasons to change while figuring out how to keep some of those elements the same and just tweaking them, like you were saying. I think amping it up is probably something that maybe it's a conversation. I would say just try it. If you've already got it a little bit in existence and you are like wanting to amp it up, if your relationship seems like that sort of safe place right now and you're not going through other issues outside of bed, taking initiative in sex is not wrong. You don't have to have a preemptive conversation about every single component of sex.
No.
So to be like, I kind of like that last time. Like, okay, then next time go on ahead and try it again. Maybe say a little bit more.
And if you already know your partner's boundaries, experiment, try and avoid the boundaries, amp it up.
And keep trying it. If it feels awkward the first time, try it again. If you like it, if you like the thought of it and it just feels like it isn't clicking or working yet, it just might need more time.
Yeah.
Laugh together, talk about how awkward and funny it was, and then try it again.
Yeah.
And a form of your dirty talk might end up just being laughing together by the time it's all said and done. And that can be a blast in sex, to just be saying random shit, the other person cracking up about it. Like, you're still getting each other in the mood, right?
Yeah.
And you might end up changing it from funny conversation to serious at a certain point. But yeah, I think toning it down is one piece of it, but also feel free to turn up the heat, not because your relationship is stagnant or needing extra spice, but because why not?
Yeah.
What's there to lose, If you've got a relationship where you've got communication in place, you've got boundaries in place, you trust each other, then utilize that trust, utilize that safety to grow and experience new things.
I agree. Got nothing else to add. Said it so eloquently.
Why, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
No, nothing other than tonight I'm gonna bleep your bleep.
Whoa. Bleep.
Alrighty, guys. See you next week.
Thanks for listening.